for 6 Allen bolts to remove this cover. We just have a couple of them. I loosened several of them up already just to move things along quicker for you. And then we've got your recoil cup here. What happens is you pull that recoil and these arms go out, and you do it when it's going fast, but these arms will pop out and grab a hold of these and spin that motor over. So that's how a recoil works. So if your recoil is not working, more than likely your rope broke or something, but sometimes these gears get, or these arms here get broke off or worn down. This is a 17 millimeter to remove this. And this is one of the times you want to hold this so that your motor doesn't turn over, so that your cam chain doesn't break your case. If you spin that over, your cam chain will spin as well, and could potentially cause some major damage. Got the recoil cup off of there now. And we've got your flywheel. Now this is a challenge for a lot of people. And what I like to do, grab a screwdriver. This is a number 3 screwdriver. You don't want to go smaller than that, but you can take these and just tap on them. And what I like to do is turn them, and you can turn them. I'll do it on this screw here where maybe you can see a little bit better. You turn them, find the spot where it sits down in that screw and tap it just to kind of clean it out good. Then I take my screwdriver and I'll turn it like a 1/16 of a turn, and so it's not seated completely down in there. And then I'll take and slam on it. What that's doing is forcing that screw to either turn into place, turn in where the screwdriver is, or kind of just break free from where it's at. So that's how I got all these out. And you can use an impact driver like this, except for these are clear down inside there, and you can't get an impact driver on there. So I was able to loosen all these up by doing that little trick with this number 3 screwdriver. You want to make sure you use a number 3 though, not your regular number 2, because you want to make sure that it's completely filled up these Phillips heads. All right, those are out there, and then we had a couple around the outside here that we pulled. You want to make sure you don't tap on these where these bolts go in. They will break off very easily. I just kind of tapped on the case itself, and not even very hard, but enough to break that seal free. And then this is going to be magnetic inside there, so it can be a little bit of a challenge to get apart there. We've got your stator right here, got your pulser over here, and to buy this from Yamaha, you can buy this entire assembly here, and you just have to pull these 3 Phillips here to get this out. That wire kind of runs underneath and comes out here. You want to make sure you replace this gasket, because more than likely you'll rip it getting it off if this motor is sat for any amount of time at all. And it has, because it's a 1984. We've got your flywheel here, and I'll show you how to remove that. Here's your idler gear. And what happens is you push your starter button, it engages your starter drive, which engages this gear, which turns your flywheel gear, and that turns the motor over. So if this gear goes bad, these teeth get worn off, or it's not spinning freely, it won't be turning your stator, your flywheel over in your starter gear behind here, so it won't be turning your motor over. And a lot of times the teeth on the starter wear bad, or the idler gear, or the teeth behind the flywheel there. So to pull this flywheel then, you've got to have a puller like you can see here. And what you do then is spin this on here. I've got this, and I like to take a bolt, and your cam sprocket bolt fits right down in there. And you could also use your recoil pull starter bolt, which was here. It's just longer. So I've got that on there. Then what I do is I take some old bolts, the same ones actually as the your Tri Moto uses for the head bolts, but these are not off of this Tri Moto because, and you don't really want to use the ones off of your Tri Moto because, unless you're going to get new ones, because a lot of times it'll tweak these enough to where you don't really want to reuse them again to go clear down the head. These are not a bolt that you want to break off inside the head. So these are exceptionally long, and they certainly don't need to be this long, but we didn't have any other bolt that was long enough that was any shorter. So make sure these go all the way down, and then you take this, in this case it's a 19 millimeter. You're gonna make sure that you're straight with that. What I've done before too is put a junk socket on there, and that kind of holds it in the center there. Now you just spin this, and you could hear it pop off of there. That means it's loose. I always like to take and grab it, pull on it just to make sure it's completely loose before I take this puller apart here. And that doesn't take much. If it's pretty rusty inside there. Sometimes what I do is take and leave that socket on the end of it and just do one, after I put pressure on that puller, take a socket and just kind of slam on the end of that puller there. And a lot of times it'll pop free. I've never ever been able to not get one off hitting the end of the puller with a hammer. Again, holding your flywheel so the motor doesn't turn over. We'll take and put that puller away now, because we will not need that anymore on this machine. All right, now we've got that flywheel loosened up, and you just take it and lift it off of there. Now it's got one-way bearing in behind here, and what that does is there's a ball and a spring, and kind of a round cylinder and a spring, and when that starter is engaged, it'll turn one way. It's a one-way gear. So it'll turn one way and engage that motor, and then as soon as that motor's spinning on its own, it will disengage that one-way gear. We've got a keeper here that will hold your starter gear into place. Make sure we remove that. That's crucial to have on there, otherwise your flywheel and starter gear is all going to spin at the same time. So down in there we've got two 10 millimeter bolts holding that cam chain guide on. And there's your last guide there. Make sure there's no damage in there. Now if you can see here, this is what I was talking about. If you spin this motor over, a lot of times you'll break this guide holder here. And if that happens, this crankcase is may as well be thrown in the trash. So you're going to make sure that cam chain doesn't turn over and bind up in there when you're rebuilding this motor. So we'll keep this cam chain